All right, welcome to another one-shot interview brought to you by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm your host, Mikey, and joining me today is senior editor at Valiant Entertainment. Currently, it has been working in other companies such as Image, Top Cow, and DC. And we are joined by Rob Levin. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know it's weird because like we literally just said hi before, and now I have to yeah. But yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much, man. I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll just get right into it. So I mean, we always do an icebreaker in the beginning. So like again, you gotta tell us all your life story, how you got into comics, how you got into the industry. So yeah.
Sure. I went to school at USC, Southern California, and I was going to film school, wanted to break into film and TV, and was looking for internships where I could take advantage of, the location and opportunities there. And I ended up finding out that Top Cow was based in LA, and I had read some of their books growing up. So I emailed them about a possible internship and didn't hear back. And at the time, they had phone numbers on their website. So after, a few weeks or a month, I just cold called Renee Geerlings, who was the managing editor at the time, and was just gonna check in because I didn't know if that's a thing I should do or not. And she answered the phone and was like, "Oh, I was gonna call you." So I got the internship and sort of kept showing up until they liked me enough to want to keep me around. And so I was an editorial intern for a while, and then I moved over in a paid role into production. So I learned that side of the business. And then as there were staff changes and things like that, I got to start as an editor. And I stuck around there until I was VP editorial and I was running their editorial department. And then I was freelance for 7 years. So I worked for everybody I could, honestly. I worked for Archaea before they were part of Boom. I worked for Radical. I did books for creators at Image. I did some consulting work for individual creators, companies. I did a comic project with Dell, the computer company. And in 2016, I joined DC Comics and I started in their integrated publishing group, which had a lot of the digital first content like Injustice. So I worked on Injustice Ground Zero and Injustice 2. And then I moved into the Batman group. And then I got moved into the Justice League group. And then I got moved back into the Batman group with a different group editor. And from there, I moved on to Humanoids, where I was for about 2 years. And then a little over 2 months ago, I joined Valiant. So that gets you up to speed with where I am while skipping out on a few, projects and details.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we met from Valiant.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's so just so that everyone else has a good idea of because some of when we met, I had no idea exactly what an editor specifically did. So if you want to go into detail on what an editor at a comic book company does in terms of books and all that stuff.
Sure. So, and obviously it's different at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Different companies have different responsibilities, but an editor is responsible for everything from conception to schedule management to art direction to wrangling talent. It's really a jack of all trades sort of situation. If you see this, that means there's a cat on my lap. I apologize if she starts coming in the frame. She's
No
very
problem.
Cute. But really, you have to know a lot of different things. You have to know story, you have to know art, you have to know various scheduling, Excel database management type stuff, just because you have to be organized even if the project itself is chaotic. But like I said, story, art, people skills are really important because you're hiring people. You're saying, hey, come spend the next month, 6 months, year, whatever, working on this thing with me. And sometimes they need some convincing that it's the right project for their career or their creative goals. Sometimes you are a therapist or a babysitter to grown people. But really it does come down to sometimes you're coming up with the idea, sometimes you're taking someone else's idea and helping, shepherd it into, full life and execution. And then, sometimes you get a full team and you're put on it. Sometimes you're assembling the team. Sometimes you have one piece, nail and fill out the rest. You got to be able to proofread, understand each part of the process so that you can talk to the creators on their level. So, you can't just talk about color and say things like, I want it to pop and I wish this moment felt bigger. You've got to talk about value and hue and tone and all those things so that they're not guessing at your meaning, that you're communicating in a way they can understand. And that goes for penciling, inking, colors, letters, and writing. And you have to be a bit of a marketer. You sort of have to know, sure, we can tell this story, but how do we sell it? How do we get readers to connect with it? All that sort of thing. So it's a lot, and you have to be pretty good and knowledgeable about all of it. And it's often the thankless part of the job where creators get all the credit and famously editors only get the blame. But most creators know what you're doing when you work with them. So it's a rewarding position because you get to touch every part of the process, and you spend more time with a book than really anybody else, unless you have somebody who is doing every part, writing, drawing, coloring, lettering. They may actually spend more time, but really if everyone's doing one piece, you live with that book from start to finish. So it's fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I remember you told me that like an editor you think it's a very like unappreciated job, especially in terms of when a book doesn't do well, you guys mostly get the blame, and then sometimes the writers are the blame or the artists are to blame, which is unfortunate. But you guys are basically the glue in terms of kind of putting a book together and making sure that it's on the right track, which I think it's really cool. Actually, it's a really cool position in my opinion. But yeah, so yeah, my kind of like my follow-up question, since you said you started at Top Cow and then you kind of worked your way up until you got to like essentially DC during like the Rebirth era, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like what do you think, in your honest opinion, do you think is better, working at a more like independent company as an editor, or more from like an editor from like the big two? Like, you want to talk about any differences between that or anything like that?
I don't know that I could say that one is better or worse than the other, but they offer, different advantages and disadvantages, right? So like DC, you have, marquee characters. You've got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, on and on and on. You've got characters that everybody knows. And a lot of people, creators that get into the industry, they want to work on those characters. Their goal is, I want to work for Marvel, I want to work for DC. So it's a lot easier to sell someone on, hey, do you want to draw Batman? But you may also have, say, an Ambush Bug book, and that may be a harder sell. Not to knock Ambush Bug, it's just not Batman.
Exactly.
So it's not like it's just you have carte blanche to hire whoever you want at any given time, but you generally have characters people know, characters people want to work on. You have, large budgets for the most part, and you have it's a massive operation there. They're doing, I don't know, somewhere between 40 and 60 books, it seems like, every month. I'd have to look at what this month is. So, there's a big team behind you. They have, they have proofreaders. They have a department that handles scheduling. So they have all these things that assist you in being able to keep that massive organism running. But the downsides of working with a large company like that is it's much harder to sort of turn the ship. When I was at Humanoids, Mark Wade, who was our publisher, talked about, working at a smaller company is like being on a speedboat where you can kind of turn on a dime, and working at a large corporation like a DC, like a Marvel is, it's like a tanker or a massive yacht where like it just takes forever to turn. It doesn't mean you won't get there, but you can't sort of have an idea, have a new direction you want to go and just do it. So the flexibility of smaller companies is that, you're not as limited by that infrastructure. So it both supports you and limits you. And in many cases, smaller companies allow you to take more chances. Like at Top Cow, I got to help pioneer the pilot season program, where we were launching, 5 or 6 one-shots as potential series. And, we did that. I think I was there for 2 or 3 of those pilot season years. And they did another 3 or 4 years worth after that, which means, they were putting out, let's say it was 5 a year for 5 years, 25 new concepts in a short amount of time. Maybe DC and Marvel are doing that, but they're also relying on, what's come before and selling, let's do more Spider-Man books, let's do more Batman books. So the freedom that you get at a small company is really appealing. And you also help to get, you get to discover a lot of up and coming talent that often then gets snatched away by the bigger companies. But there is something very cool about like someone submitting or you finding somebody online or at a convention and then like giving them the chance and seeing them spread their wings. That's a really satisfying thing for me.
Gotcha. All right, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, yeah, it seems similar because I remember when we talked before, we are talking about how you worked on like Nailbiter with Williamson,
Mhm.
how like it's important for an editor to make sure that their vision is, is expressed in the best way possible, in terms of, working on Marvel or DC, where like you're just working on the character and then just leaving after that, like it doesn't have that much, and you're not making that much of a last, like a big stamp on it, what I'm talking about, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I think it's a difference of approach, right? So like on
yeah,
Nailbiter, which is creator owned, Josh brought me onto that book. He and Mike were already in place, and I think Adam Zowski, our colorist, was already there. And what they needed was someone to help shepherd that project, make sure it stayed on track, and have someone to bounce ideas off of. Whereas, if you're editing something at DC, characters are established, books are established, you're kind of safeguarding the toys, so to speak,
yeah,
because you can't let Batman start using guns and killing people. That's not Batman. So you have different restrictions, and like you're the guardian of that at DC. Whereas like it's not my place to tell Josh and Mike, hey, in Nailbiter, we should be doing this or that. It's their story. I'm there to help them tell the best story possible. But I mean, look, you can definitely have a big impact, even in small ways. Like I worked on Red Hood and the Outlaws, which became Red Hood Outlaw, and they've been using the costume that Pete Woods designed when he took over the book as the artist for 3 years now, 4 years now. So it was just a story change, but I got to be a part of the company that lasted even longer than my tenure did. So it's very cool to see that.
gotcha, gotcha. And just to talk about like how much work you've done, because again, you said you've done a lot to like dark for Top Cow, you did the Darkness, like Image, you did Nailbiter, all that stuff. You did Batman with Tom King. So I want to, do you have like a favorite project? What's your favorite project that you've worked on, and like you want to talk about the experience working on that project?
Um, See, I
I
can't pick
mean,
one favorite because some creator is going to get mad at me, but yeah, I mean, it's
You won't tell.
you won't tell, no.
and no one will watch this, right? It's fine. No one will share this forever. If there's one thing I know about the internet, it's that it doesn't go away. Do I have a favorite project? This is I will tell you my most recent favorite projects are sort of two projects, and they're both Humanoids things that I did. I worked on Count with Ibrahim Mustafa and Brad Simpson and Hassan Otsman El How. Hassan, if I mispronounced your name, I'm sorry. And then we worked on a second graphic novel. It's just another one with the same team. It's not related to Count. And that collaboration, I just think, is so fruitful. Ibrahim is a fantastic collaborator. And Brad and Hassan just wow me with everything they do. So being able to just take that team, see them come together, because it was the first time all three of them had worked together. It was great. And then getting to see what we could then take that familiarity and do with the second book, which I think is unannounced, so I can't talk about it yet.
Yeah.
That was really fantastic. And then the other book, I don't think has been announced either. Is also a Humanoids book, and I'm sorry, I'm telling you what is my most recent favorites.
No.
I can say that Pete Woods drew it. I don't think I could say who wrote it.
Okay.
But he does some excellent comic books. Hint, hint. But it was just a book that came together in really unexpected ways. When the unnamed writer would send me scripts, and they kind of blew my mind. He'd be like, "I don't even know how I wrote this. Like, it feels like someone else wrote it." And I was like, "Great, do it again." And Pete just leveled up his game. I already thought he was fantastic, and seeing him take that to a whole other level was amazing. So that's a recent thing. But historically, I love being a part of pilot season. That was a big passion for me, to be able to do more with initially characters we weren't really using, and being able to just do, like I said, 5 or 6 of them. And then the second year, we got to do all original projects, and that was awesome because I got to work with Jay Ferber and Jorge Molina, and Jason Aaron and Jorge Lucas, and Jonathan Hickman and Kenneth Rogafort. Like, I got to work with really incredible people. There's probably 2 or 3 people, books and creators I'm forgetting right now, but they were all awesome. And it was really fun to just create from whole cloth and do take big swings. So for me, it's all about like the collaboration more than, oh, I loved working on Batman, or oh, I love working on this character. It's like I worked with Ron Mars on Witchblade early in my career, and then Phil Hester on The Darkness, and so I've been friends and collaborators with those two for whatever I'm at now, 17 years. And it's great. They're fantastic creators. They're fantastic people. And knowing them that long means we've done other cool stuff. And like, I have friends that, have been with me through my entire comics journey. So that's really, not to avoid the question, but like, that's really what it's about. It's like having fun, making really cool projects, and getting to like reteam with those people is kind of the best part.
Yeah, and that's like great when it comes to, having a career, you're making connections, all that stuff. You can always go back to them and like, hey, like, let's make a book. Simple as that.
If you treat them right, you can.
Yeah. Obviously, if you don't treat them right, it's not gonna happen.
Look, we've all heard stories about, editors running wild and creating problems. And I've made it a point in my career to treat people like people and be understanding when things come up. And it doesn't mean I don't enforce deadlines and things like that, but there's a human component that I think always has to come first, because, people have lives and things happen. And obviously last year was a big upsetting of the apple cart for everyone. And I don't think I had a single book that didn't have some sort of hiccup as a result of everyone's lives being different. But, all you can do is support the project, support the people, and, do everything you can to make it easier for people to continue working and focusing. And in most cases, they really appreciate that.
Mhm. All right, that's good. That's good. So I got a last question, and we'll probably move on to if anyone has any for the Q&A portion. If anyone has any questions. In terms of Valiant, I'm just gonna ask like I'm not gonna ask like specifically like what you're working on, because I know there's stuff that you've told me that I can't say. So like, because I don't want to piss off Fred and Greg and all of them. But I just want to like like what are you looking forward to like now that you've been at Valiant for like a few months and stuff. What like some stuff you're looking forward to working on with them.
I feel like you're going to hate this question, especially
Yeah.
you, Tabitha. We can't talk about a lot, but really what I'm looking forward to is, you come into a company and you sort of inherit things that are up and running, and, some you continue and some you finish out. But really it's about, I'm always excited about what we're doing next and being able to, put my fingerprints on the universe and really steer things. So, obviously in vague terms, that'll be the return of characters people haven't seen in a while. That'll be, new status quo for other characters. And I've talked about this before, but like, I'm looking forward to, kind of putting the emphasis back on the shared part of shared universe. I think that's one of Valiant's great strengths, is that the books all happen, in the same world. And when you're doing it right, you can have connections between each of the books, not in the sense of every month is a crossover and you have to buy the whole line, but that there are reverberations and ripples across the line. And I really want to make it so that we have that more consistently. And that because we are not a huge, we're not doing 40 books a month, we're doing, 2, 3, 4 books a month. You can buy the whole line if you want. You'll get a better reading experience in terms of the whole universe, but you can also just buy the titles that you're into, and you're not going to feel like you're missing out, or, the story is incomplete because you didn't have the details of what went on in some other corner. So I want to keep things connected. I want to push characters forward. And really that's kind of the mantra, is like focusing on what's ahead, not about, self-referential and, needing to have read everything. I want to make accessible books for everybody. And that's kind of where we're headed in terms of what I can say at this moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, knowing you and your career and like who you are, I think Valiant's in good hands, to be honest with you. And I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in the future. I mean, I know stuff, but also I don't want Fred to yell at me. So like, yeah, but yeah, so I guess we'll just move on to Q&A. If anyone here has any questions for Rob while he's with us, that would be all right. Hannah, you can go first since you raised your hand.
Yeah, so sorry, I have like a cough and my sore throat, but I heard that you worked on Red Hoods and the Outlaw, and I absolutely love that run. So if you can tell me like what the process was like, what you liked about it, and any changes that you liked or disliked, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, the process was, kind of like any book. So I took it over issue 13 or 14 of the Rebirth run. So trying to think where that began. It was after the sort of death of Bizarro. Kind of trying to remember what the first issue was. So we had something to crack. So initially it was just, getting in a room with Scott Lobdell, who was local in LA. So he got to come to the office and, we take over a conference room, we whiteboard out a bunch of things and we're writing. And Scott's process, rather than just writing things on the board, is he likes to doodle. I won't say he's a bad artist, but I'm glad someone else was drawing the book. I have many cell phone photos of just weird drawings of like, Scott, whatever you're trying to illustrate, use your words, man. They're very funny. But Scott is one of those guys. So in the way the process is different, Scott is a real like mile a minute, it's this idea, it's that idea, it's this. And like, he can really kind of snowball a story very quickly, not necessarily in a bad way, but like he just build and build and build. So what I chose to do on that book is kind of let him explore various things. I didn't say no to a lot. What I did was sort of let him explore it. And then when he realized like, you know what, that doesn't work, sometimes I would already know, but I was letting him kind of go through the process of checking it for himself. Because if somebody says something, you kind of check them and go like, I don't know about that. They're going to want to defend it and fight it. But sometimes they're just logical things in a story. You let them get to it themselves. So Scott and I developed a really good rapport. And I inherited the original art team, Dexter Soy and Veronica Gandini, from Alex Antone, who was the previous editor, and they were great. And the only reason we made a change is, we had a story direction tweak from Red Hood and the Outlaws to Red Hood Outlaw, where we wanted Jason, on his own and dealing with things like the eventual death of Roy Harper. And so we were really lucky to get Pete Woods, a big fan favorite in my heart, on that book. And he did, I think he did 11 issues out of 12 and just crushed it. And then I got to reteam with Kenneth Rocafort on the final arc I worked on. But, a real murderer's row of talent. We had a couple really good fill-ins in there as well. And the art team was just, including all the fill-in artists, like they were just game for whatever Scott threw at them. And, we had Bizarro drinking synthetic kryptonite to try and get himself smarter. We had all kinds of weird stuff. We got rid of the Outlaws. We sent them to an alternate Earth, alternate dimension thing. And we had Adam Polina, who Scott had worked with, years and years ago at Marvel. We had him come in and do an annual. It was super fun, but a lot of it was just, Scott has worked on that character more than anybody. And it was about sort of, seeing where we could keep pushing it, new, fresh directions. And a lot of the credit there goes to him.
Yeah, you mentioned Dexter Soy and Ken Block, for my favorite artists in recent time, and Bizarro Getting Smarter was the best part of that book for me. I loved that. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Tabitha, you had a question.
Yeah. I guess this is kind of more of a personal kind of question. What was it like applying to these places? Were you really nervous? Like, was it easy to get a hold of the people at these companies? I don't know.
No, that's a fair question. So as I mentioned with my, origin story, I kind of didn't know what I didn't know. So, I had emailed Top Cow and I think I had sent him a resume. And then like, I don't know, like if I were starting over today, would I have just cold called them and be like, hey, did you get my resume? Or would I have thought like, they clearly don't want to hire me. They just didn't say no, which is unfortunately, as you will learn soon enough, most places you apply, you do not hear back. It's really nice when you get clarity of no, thank you. We reviewed and went a different way. So at Top Cow, I wasn't nervous. And some of that was just, I was still in school. I knew it was just going to be an internship. So I didn't really have anything to lose because I had, full-time school to focus on. I definitely applied to other jobs while I was freelancing, including DC. I actually ended up getting the same job I was hired for in 2016. I had applied for and gotten very close, but didn't get the exact same job, including Group, Boss, which was Jim Chadwick. Some of the same books. Like when I first interviewed, I think he was a couple months into Injustice or about to start it. So, it was disappointing the first time not to get it. And yeah, I think there's always some intimidating factor about, going in and having to prove your worth. But I was in a much different position in 2016 when I got hired versus whatever it was, 2012, 2013. I went from I don't have a job, and I had done these freelance things, but it had been a while. And then I had made it long enough freelance by the time I did get hired that I knew I would be okay without it. um, so I think experience just makes it easier every time you work on something. Every time you work at a company, it's like one more thing on your resume, one more thing to bolster your confidence and your track record. So it gets easier once you do more, which I know is hard, but it does work out eventually.
Thank you.
Gotcha. And Rebecca, you're the last one.
All right. So as an editor, when you get a pitch, and this is more about like original concepts than like established stuff, do you have like any red flags when you get a pitch for, okay, I know immediately like this isn't going to work?
Yes, sometimes you can just tell, typos aren't a immediate, this is going to kill it. But if no words are spelled correctly, pretty good indication, like this person hasn't taken it, quite seriously enough to like present it in a professional manner. It kind of depends. So like at Humanoids, we actually had like a pitch template where we required certain things, and we actually required that template. So if you didn't turn it in, we had it very clearly on the website, we will not be reviewing anything that doesn't use this template. So again, if we have an easy requirement, it's going to have all the things you should be putting in a pitch anyway, and you can't do it, it's easy to know, okay, we're going to pass on this. But for me, I'm looking for character stuff first. I need to know at the heart of this story is a character who wants something, needs something, can't do something, all those things. It's not about, complicated plot mechanics. It's not about twists and surprises. It's about somebody who wants something, something stands in their way, complications ensue. Stories are ultimately not as crazy and wild and over the top as they sound. They're simple at their hearts. So if people skimp on character, right, and their character descriptions are, Joe, 20, tall, doesn't mean the pitch is dead, but it lets me know, oh, they're not really thinking about character. They're in love with their high concept. They're in love with their plotting. And most pitches I was getting at Humanoids, which was all for original stuff, people were pitching premises. So like, it's just the concept in a world where, all the humans are dead and we're only left with robots, that's not a story. That's the start of something. That's the premise. That's the setting. But it doesn't actually tell me, it's about the one man left in this robot world and what he has to do to like leave the planet and get back to the humans. Like it has to have conflict. And too often people just want to have wacky things and, pack their stories full of so many things they think are interesting or, things that appeal to them. But they're forgetting, stories are about conflict. They're about characters in conflict. And if you don't have that, you don't really have anything for people to really connect with emotionally. So that's the main thing I look for. It's also clarity. I've had pitches where it's a really complex story full of, large casts and different time periods and, playing with the form and stuff like that. But when a pitch can sort of keep you grounded in what it is, and I'm not scratching my head going, I have to read this 4 more times, that generally gives me a good sense of, oh, they can communicate clearly enough in this pitch. They can probably do it in the comic to some degree. Whereas sometimes there'll be really simple stories in, execution and everything, but you read the pitch and you're like, I don't know what's happening. Or I'm bored. Sometimes that's the biggest red flag is I'm bored at this pitch stage. Sure, a comic will have art, but it might still be boring. So I want emotional connection, and I want to know that like when I picture the comic, like the best possible version of the comic is what I picture in my mind. If I can't do that from a pitch, it's going to be a hard sell. But if you've got all my gears turning and I'm like, I really want to know more, that's usually what, makes me invest and then, follow up or say, hey, let's do this.
Okay. All right. I think Musa, did you have a question? Because I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah.
And then we'll be done.
This is kind of a basic question, but do you have a particular favorite Robin? I know we talked about your time on the Red Hood, so is there any like bias for Jason?
Ironically, Jason is not my favorite Robin. I have to go with Tim Drake on that, just because strange continuity of the New 52 be damned for a second. He's got the best origin, right? Like, he wants to be the world's greatest detective and he figures out Batman's secret identity. It's, he's just very cool. I've also worked on Nightwing. I think I've done the least with Damian, but like, they all have merits and they all have a place. And, I like the extended family, like Cass and Stephanie Brown and Duke and all of them. But like, Tim is just, he's he's like the best one, which is weird to say considering, Dick was the prototype and he turned into Nightwing, and Nightwing's a great character. But as purely a Robin, Tim, easy.
Definitely.
Yeah, see, Rob, I knew we were gonna get along great. Now that you've solidified it with Tim Drake. But yeah, so yeah, I guess that's it. I'm gonna just now say the outro now because Hannah is our president, and usually presidents are the ones that say something nice. But since she's sick, I'm gonna do it. But yeah, man, thanks a lot I really appreciate it because I know you're busy and all that stuff. So I really appreciate that you decided to take your time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us. Yeah, but just real quick, do you want to say like anywhere people can find you, social media, all that stuff?
I'm on Twitter at Rob Levin, ROBLEVIN, which will probably be somewhere in this recording. That's the best place. I have a website that never gets updated. I'm only on Twitter, and even that sporadically. So Twitter, say hi.
Say hi, people. Who's gonna watch on YouTube, say hi to him. He's great. But yeah, man, thanks so much. Again, listen, we're keep in touch as always. Thanks again for being on here, and then let everyone at the meeting on Monday that I said hello. That'd be really nice.
I'll let them know.
And yeah, man, thank you so much. Yeah, you can send you off now. All right, have a good one.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.